Hello, welcome to working with different file formats. After watching this video, you will be able to define different file formats such as CSV, XML, and JSON, write simple programs to read and output data, and list what Python libraries are needed to extract data. When collecting data, you will find there are many different file formats that need to be collected or read in order to complete a data-driven story or analysis. When gathering the data, Python can make the process simpler with its predefined libraries. But before we explore Python, let us first check out some of the various file formats. Looking at a file name, you will notice an extension at the end of the title. These extensions let you know what type of file it is and what is needed to open it. For instance, if you see a title like fileexample.csv, you will know this is a CSV file. But this is only one example of different file types. There are many more, such as JSON or XML. When coming across these different file formats and trying to access their data, we need to utilize Python libraries to make this process easier. The first Python library to become familiar with is called Pandas. By importing this library in the beginning of the code, we are then able to easily read the different file types. Since we have now imported the Panda library, let us use it to read the first CSV file. In this instance, we have come across the fileexample.csv file. The first step is to assign the file to a variable. Then, create another variable to read the file with the help of the Panda library. We can then call read_CSV function to output the data to the screen. With this example, there were no headers for the data, so it added the first line as the header. Since we do not want the first line of data as the header, let us find out how to correct this issue. Now that we have learned how to read and output the data from a CSV file, let us make it look a little more organized. From the last example, we were able to print out the data, but because the file had no headers, it printed the first line of data as the header. We easily solve this by adding a data frame attribute. We use the variable df to call the file, then add the columns attribute. By adding this one line to our program, we can then neatly organize the data output into the specified headers for each column. The next file format we will explore is the JSON file format. In this type of file, the text is written in a language-independent data format and is similar to a Python dictionary. The first step in reading this type of file is to import JSON. After importing JSON, we can add a line to open the file, call the load attribute of JSON to begin, and read the file. And lastly, we can then print the file. The next file format type is XML, also known as Extensible Markup Language. While the Pandas library does not have an attribute to read this type of file, let us explore how to parse this type of file. The first step to read this type of file is to import XML. By importing this library, we can then use the eTree attribute to parse the XML file. We then add the column headers and assign them to the data frame. Then create a loop to go through the document to collect the necessary data and append the data to a data frame. In this video, you learned how to recognize different file types, how to use Python libraries to extract data, and how to use data frames when collecting data.